I was born in Philadelphia, raised in Italy, and built in the weight of expectation. My name is Kobe Bryant, and this is the story of how obsession turned me into a legend. My childhood wasn't ordinary. My father, Joe Jellybean Bryant, was a professional basketball player, and the game followed us everywhere. From the packed gyms of America to the sun-drenched courts of Italy, basketball was more than a sport, it was our language. While other kids were just playing for fun, I was playing to learn. I wasn't just shooting hoops, I was dissecting angles, studying footwork, and absorbing every nuance of the game. I was a student, and the court was my classroom. I wanted to understand it, to conquer it. This wasn't a hobby. This was the beginning of an obsession. When we moved back to the US, when I was 13, I felt like a complete outsider. The culture was different. The slang, the music, the whole rhythm of life felt foreign to me. I had an Italian accent, and kids didn't know what to make of this tall, skinny kid who spoke their language a little differently. It was isolating. But in that sea of unfamiliarity, I had one constant, one universal language I knew better than anyone: basketball. The court became my sanctuary, my bridge back to a world I felt disconnected from. It was the one place where the ball, the hoop, and my will were all that mattered. So, I poured everything into it. I spent hours and hours alone in the gym, before school, after school, late into the night. While others were at parties or hanging out, I was there, with the rhythmic sound of the ball bouncing as my only companion. I would repeat the same move 1,000 times, then 1,000 more, until my muscles understood what my mind demanded. It was a relentless pursuit of muscle memory, of turning a conscious action into an unconscious reflex. This wasn't about just getting better. It was about achieving a state where my body could execute my vision without hesitation. It was a lonely path, but that solitude forged a focus and a discipline that would define my entire career. Then, at just 17 years old, I made a decision that shocked the basketball world. I decided to skip college and go straight to the NBA. The Los Angeles Lakers. The bright lights, the history, the immense pressure. It was a gamble few dared to make, and the critics were loud. They said I was too young, too arrogant, too unproven. They looked at my confidence and saw cockiness. They looked at my ambition and saw disrespect for the veterans of the league. They didn't see the thousands of hours in the dark gym. They didn't understand the fire that was burning inside my chest, a fire fueled by every doubt, every criticism, every prediction of my failure. My rookie year was a trial by fire. I was a teenager playing against grown men, legends I have posters of on my wall. There were moments of brilliance and moments of brutal learning. I remember airballing for crucial shots in a playoff game against the Utah Jazz. It was humiliating. The world watched me fail on the biggest stage. But as I walked off that court, I didn't feel defeated. I felt a renewed sense of purpose. That failure became the ultimate motivation. I knew right then and there that I would never let that happen again. The very next day, I was back in the gym, shooting for hours, exercising the ghost of those misses. Then, I met Shaquille O'Neal, a force of nature, a giant with a giant heart and a personality as big as his frame. From the moment we stepped on the court together, there was an undeniable chemistry. My finesse and skill on the perimeter, his raw power and dominance in the paint. It was a perfect storm. Together, we built something unstoppable. We brought a Showtime energy back to Los Angeles, and we started winning. A lot. We built a dynasty the world couldn't ignore, capturing 3 consecutive championships from 2000 to 2002. We were on top of the world. But success, especially at that level, creates its own kind of tension. We were to alphas, to players with an unshakable belief in our own greatness, pushing the limits of what was possible. We had to different visions, to different approaches to the game, and to legacies that were fighting to grow in the same space. The media loved it, fueling the narrative of a feud. And yes, we clashed. We argued. We challenged each other, sometimes in ways that weren't productive. It was a collision path, and eventually, the partnership that had created a dynasty had to be dismantled. We separated, and in our separation, we both had to evolve. The world wrote me off again. Without Shaq, the narrative was that I would fail. They said I couldn't win a championship as the sole leader. They said my style of play was selfish. Once again, doubt was my fuel. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I worked. I trained harder, longer, and smarter than ever before. My routine became legendary. Waking up at 5 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m., getting to the gym before anyone else, staying long after everyone had left, training until my fingers were raw and sometimes even bled, dribbling until my legs shook with exhaustion. I wasn't just practicing, I was studying. I watched hours of film, breaking down opponents' tendencies, studying the footwork of the greats, analyzing defensive schemes like a scientist examines complex equations. I pushed my body, and my mind to the absolute edge. In 2006, I scored 81 points in a single game. It wasn't about the record. It was a demonstration of what was possible when obsession meets preparation. It was the physical manifestation of all those lonely hours in the gym. It was my answer to the doubters. And then came the validation. 2009. We were back in the NBA Finals, and we won. Then we did it again in 2010, in a grueling 7-game series against our biggest rivals, the Boston Celtics. Those two championships were different. They were mine. They proved what I already knew deep in my soul, that relentless discipline will always beat doubt. It was the culmination of a promise I made to myself after that playoff failure as a rookie, a promise to be a champion on my own terms. My career was a testament to pushing through pain. But in 2013, I faced the ultimate physical test. In a game against the Golden State Warriors, I planted my foot and felt a pop. My Achilles tendon had snapped. The pain was excruciating. It's an injury that has ended many careers. The arena went silent, but in that moment, my mentality took over. I knew I had free throws to shoot. Giving up wasn't an option. I hobbled to the line, blocked out the pain, focused on the rim, and sank both shots. Because pain is temporary, but legacy is forever. That walk to the free throw line and back to the locker room was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it was a defining moment. It was Mamba Mentality in its purest form. The Mamba Mentality is often misunderstood. It's not about being arrogant or being perfect. It's not about the result. It's about the process. It's about the relentless pursuit of being the best version of yourself. It's about showing up every single day, especially on the days you don't feel like it. It's about embracing the grind, loving the work, and never, ever being outworked. It's about obsession with the craft. No excuses, no shortcuts, just the work. My story is one of highs and lows, of championships and failures, of partnerships and rivalries. But through it all, the one constant was the obsession that started as a kid on an Italian basketball court. I am Kobe Bryant, and my legacy was built under the bright lights at the Staples Center. It was built in the dark, in the quiet, in the lonely hours before the world was even awake. Legends are built long before anyone sees them. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content on the mindset of champions. See you in the next one.